Hello, please enjoy the following video tutorial from SERCO, Resume and Interviewing Bootcamp. SERCO Southwest Suburban Cook County American Job Center. Find us on Facebook/SERCO Workforce. And please download the additional supported materials at tinyurl.com/SERCO Docs. We are sure you will lock on and hit your employment goals with this training. We'll be covering resume rescue, application tactics and cover letters, landing an interview, at ease mock interviews. Let's begin. Gathering information to create your resume. I like to think of putting a resume together kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. If you can remember putting together a jigsaw puzzle, you don't go into the box and pull out one piece at a time and see if that fits, then put it back and pull out another piece and see if that fits. No, what do? You pour everything out on the table, you look at everything you have, and you start seeing where things fit together. And that's really the idea here. You want to collect all your personal information, such as diplomas, certifications, transcripts, social security card, identification, and of course, start writing down personal references. Start gathering your experience, previous jobs, copy of awards, recognitions, work experience, and make sure you notate names and addresses. The personal information sheet included in the supported docs will really help you with this section. Information to match your job. Job description highlights. Use these tools and other resources to really help you start collecting what type of things you should be saying on your resume. So the idea here isn't necessarily let's start putting a resume together, but let's start thinking about what should go on my resume. Now, when it comes to your resume, there's 3 different types of resumes out there. There's a functional resume, a chronological resume, and a combination style resume. Now, each one of these resumes has their strengths and weaknesses, and they're best suited for different situations. A functional resume is best suited for those of us that have had little work experience or have had gaps of unemployment, or perhaps we're looking to make a career change. So what we used to do may not be what I want to do now, or I just went to school for something and now I want to get a job in that, but I don't actually have any experience. I find a functional is best suited for this because it uses what's called a skills section. So it's this area on the resume that highlights specifically what the employer needs to know about you and how you're a good fit for that job. Once again, reference our supported materials for a functional style resume template. The second style resume is called chronological. Now this is actually the most common style resume out there. Chronological simply meaning in order of time. No matter what type of resume you go with, you always want to arrange your work history from most recent to least recent. And a good rule of thumb is to have about 10 years of work experience on your resume. Now, chronological resumes are best suited for those people that have had steady work history. What I used to do is what I'm looking to do now. What I went to school with is what I'm looking to do. This resume is best suited for those individuals that have been in the same field and are continuing to grow in that particular industry or job. Now, a combination style resume is called combination because it takes the best of both worlds. It takes the idea of a skill section found in a functional resume where you highlight your skill sets, and it takes the structure of a chronological resume where you're showing the employer the work history you have, longevity you held, and how you are best suited for that role. Now, combination style resumes are best suited for individuals who are looking for more mid to upper level positions. These positions tend to require existing experience and existing education. And what makes it so much better suited than a chronological resume is with the inclusion of a skills section, as shown in the templates provided in the supported documents, you're able to better highlight how you're a best fit for this job. These jobs tend to be jobs that require a certain level of experience and education. So most individuals applying for this job would tend to have the same level of education and would tend to have the same level of experience. So your education and your experience is actually no longer a factor in making you the best candidate. The what's more really comes into play here. And so that skill section can really be a place to really shine. Let me give you a couple examples. A functional resume would be, for example, I needed to get a job straight out of school, and I started working at my grocery store as a cashier. I left that job to work at a warehouse, and I became a forklift driver there. I now decided to go to school to become a truck driver. There may be some transferable skills as a forklift driver, warehouse worker, but as a truck driver, my main goal would be to driving a truck. So really going into details of how I used to be a warehouse person and how I used to be a cashier may not be relevant. So the focus would be, let's talk about what experience you need to know about me in order for you to do the job I need to do. And let me highlight my education here. So functional is best suited in that scenario. Chronological. I went to school to become a nurse. While in school, I started doing my practicals and started doing volunteer work in the healthcare industry. I did a short time of work in one doctor's office and a doctor's office. Now that I've graduated, I'm looking to get a job as a nurse. So my education matches the field and I have some experience related to that. And you can see the progression of how I started as a student, moved up, and then graduated, and now I'm looking to go into that career. Or we can continue that thought by saying, I'm now in my profession. I was previously a medical assistant. I continued going to school. I got promoted to a patient care technician. And now I'm looking to become a nurse. And you can see once again that step-by-step transition to a next level position within the same industry and the same type of job, which is why chronological is best suited. Combination. I went to school to become a human resources person. I obtained a bachelor's in human resource management. And then from there, I began working as a human resource assistant, moved up to a human resource generalist, and now I'm a human resources manager. Now I'm applying for a job as a human resources manager. I look at the job application and it says that I must have a bachelor's degree, which I do in this example, and I must have 5 years of experience, which for this cases of the example, I do. If I was to submit my application as a chronological, I would be just like any other human resources manager with the same level of education and the same level of experience. How am I standing out? That's where if I go into the functional and pull that skill section, I can really talk about how I specifically have been a human resources person in your industry, Mr. Employer. I am very familiar in using this particular application tracking system, this particular benefits package or systems. I am well aware of the conditions that employers face in this particular industry. That's why you should choose me compared to another person. So it's very important to highlight. One final thing I wish to add about combination style resumes. They're also best suited for those individuals that are looking to make a career change, but they're not looking to start entry level, where an entry level would be better suited for functional. I have a certain level of education, I have a certain level of experience, so I command a certain level of pay, and I'm not looking to start from the bottom. So I'm looking to make a more of a lateral move, but in a different industry. I used to be a call manager for a call center in banking, but now I wish to be a call center manager in healthcare. So I feel I have enough transferable skills, and you would be absolutely right. But I can't go into details about my financial experience because that probably won't be relevant for a healthcare position. But let me talk about the skills I am able to bring to the table and highlight those. And sometimes I'll be honest with you, you need to spell it out for the employer how you're a good fit. And so this can be a great way for your mid to upper level positions. So once again, identify your skills and experience, make sure you're a good match, and start using smart keywords and buzzwords. And we'll get a little bit more into that. Action verbs. You want to make sure your resume has a series of action verbs. Now we've included an action verbs list that you can go through, and we've broken that down by different job applications and positions and job titles. So please take a look at the supporting documents. Another thing I can recommend for you is simply Google. Google keywords for things like accounting if you're an accountant, truck driver if you're a truck driver, or nurse if you're a nurse, and you'll find great websites. One specific website I wish to talk about is called ONET Online. Now, ONET Online is a website that was created by the Department of Labor, and they specifically created this website to create what's called an ONET classification coding system, which helps us better identify and classify job titles. But for our purposes, we'll be able to use this particular website to have a much better understanding of what a particular job title or position is and what we need to make sure we're saying about our role as that particular individual in that place of work. You know, it's a good way to really, as I like to say, beef up your resume. So let's take a look here at multiple machine operator setter. So if I click on that, you'll see that ONET has provided for us a full description of what a machine operator does. A machine operator observes machines to detect workpieces, defects, and machine malfunctions. I find that one of the most difficult things of putting a resume together is coming up with the words. Now that you understood which resume is best suited for you, really coming up with the words is the next hurdle you'll have to face. And this is a great website to help you do that. I'm a firm believer in not necessarily reinventing the wheel. ONET has already put here the best way you can describe your job duties and responsibilities as a machine operator in this example, or you can type in any particular job title you held, find what's best suited and best describes your particular duties and responsibilities. And I would say a little copy and paste can go a long way. Now, there are some things you want to make sure you do here. You want to make sure you adhere to the proper tense. So if I'm talking about a job I used to do, I no longer observe the machine being operator. I observed the machine being operator. It is past tense, ED. I set up machines, and operated machines. I inspected workpieces instead of inspect workpieces. So make sure your tenses are correct and proper. Make sure that everything you do copy and paste is truthful and accurate. What do I mean by that? You want to take your time and actually read the description that you're going to place in your resume from this website and make sure it's truthful. Now, if you find, for example, that there's something included on here that says a machine operator is able to read blueprints or job orders to determine product specifications, and you may say to yourself, well, you know, I don't have actually any experience reading blueprints. Should I include it? You should not include it if it's not true, but what you can do, and there's 3 little phrases I'm going to recommend for you to really help you out here, is you can talk about how you have an understanding of, I'm able to, or I can do once trained. What do I mean by that? So say on my resume, I wish to include this reading blueprints because I found a lot of jobs require reading blueprints. Now I don't have any experience on it. Should I leave it blank? I would say no, but you want to come up with a clever way. So if I was to do, I have an understanding of how to read blueprints. It's no longer a false statement. It's a truth statement about your ability to do something or your understanding of that particular task. I have never done this, but I have an understanding of. And it's going to be very important once we get talking about application tracking systems. The other, I'm able to. You know, I've never operated a machine of this type, but I'm able to operate this machine of this type. Saying I'm able to operate a machine is a false statement if I'm not able to. Being able to is a true statement of my ability to do something. And I can do once trained. I can observe a machine once properly trained. If I was to put on my resume, I'm able or I have experience observing a machine or have observed a machine, and that's not true, that would be a false statement. And once again, don't ever lie on your resume. Come up with a way to include the information you need to include in order to make sure you're referencing the job description or you are putting enough information on there so somebody can make a better guess, estimate, or understanding of your ability to perform the work you need to do. Now let's talk about application tactics and cover letters. Looking for a job, honestly speaking, is a job. The most important part of job hunting is that it's in fact a job. You need to set aside specific time and date when you can clock in and clock out for your job hunts. You want to make sure you have structured time so that things get done and you can set goals for yourself and reach those goals. You also want to have multiple versions of your resume. You want to have different versions of your resume for different job opportunities. I gave an example of me being a nursing student. Now I'm done with nursing school and I'm looking for a job as a nurse. That's my priority, but I do need to pay the bills right now while I'm waiting for my dream job. So I may start applying for a job as a cashier. Do I really want to send that retail store my resume, which talks extensively about how I went to nursing school, how I did my clinicals, and how I worked at this doctor's office and that doctor's office? Am I really making the connection to that job as a cashier? A lot of times people like to think that certain jobs will hire anybody. I'm going to be really honest with you. It can be just as hard to get the job you're qualified for as compared to the job you're overqualified for. What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. If I was a manager at McDonald's and I needed to hire somebody to flip burgers, you may say to yourself, anybody can flip burgers. They would hire anybody. But here's the thing. I still need to hire somebody that's going to be reliable, that's going to show up to work, is going to be able to take direction, and is going to be able to do the job I need them to do. So what do I mean by that? So if this is not your ideal position, if this is not really what you want to do, what confidence do I have that you'll show up to work, that you'll give me 100%, and that you'll take the direction I'll give you compared to you starting to give me direction because you used to be a regional manager of a local bank. Does that make sense? I hope it does. You also want to have different resumes for someone that you would give a resume to personally, a face-to-face as it were. Usually it's a one-pager, which highlights specific skills and accomplishments. And the reason that you want to have a single one-page resume is because when you give your resume to a person, you have that person in front of you. So you can have them quickly look over your resume, and they can identify specific items they may want to talk to you about, and you're present to be able to go into the detail necessary to give that person a better understanding of your abilities. So you're not necessarily required to put all the description information on there. So for face-to-face interactions such as job fairs, it's best to have a one-page resume, which really just highlights certain aspects of your abilities and skills, because you'll have the opportunity to speak about those in much more detail in front of the person. You'll want to have a different style resume for you when you email someone. Generally speaking, a rule of thumb, when you're emailing your resume to someone, you want to send it as a PDF. A PDF is a way to save your resume, kind of like a picture. So the way you see it on your computer is the way they're going to see it on their computer. So you don't have to be concerned about whether they have a Mac or a PC. What version of Word do they have, if they even have Word at all? Maybe they're still using word processor. Unless otherwise noted, PDF is the way to go. And of course, you'll want to have a version for when you apply for jobs online. I usually like to call this the comprehensive version, or you'll hear it sometimes referred to as a CV. This would be a resume which is usually multiple pages long, because you'll want to include as much detail as possible about your experience, your abilities, your recognitions, your accomplishments. And you want this to be in a Word document or an editable version, just because, as we'll get to a little bit, application tracking systems have much better success reading these type of documents than say other type of documents. So think about different lengths for different situations, the content you have on there, and what the focus is going to be. Whether that's the focus because you're talking to somebody specifically or because you're applying for a different type of job than you normally would. Having different styles of resumes and different types of resumes is definitely encouraged. Now that we have different styles of resumes, we put a resume together, we identified what resume is best for us. We used a system like ONET Online to really beef up and come up with the words for our resume. And we really identified how I'm going to be using this resume. Let's start looking at where to apply. A great website I would recommend for everybody is Illinois JobLink. For those of you that are currently receiving unemployment, you may actually already be using this website as this is required, but from the unemployment offices. Now, there's other websites out there that you can definitely use as job boards, like such as Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Career Builder, to name a few. Now, we ourselves here at SERCO actually manage a Facebook page. Once again, you can like us at SERCO Workforce. We're constantly posting jobs on there. Plus, we also manage an online job board, which you'll be able to find more information at SERCO Workforce. Now, not all jobs are widely advertised or listed. So it's very important to think outside the box. Don't just rely to the jobs that are posted on job boards or Indeed or other such websites. You'll want to think about, how can I start connecting? Look at your network. Look at who you know. If I used to work at a place and I had a colleague and he did the same job I did, I may reach out to that colleague and say, hey, David, what are you doing now? Where are you working at? Are they hiring at your particular company? Because you'll find that most jobs are filtered internally before they go externally. And if you hear about it while it's so internal, because of that connection that you have with a previous colleague, you'll have a much better opportunity because you won't have as many people applying for the same job. So the numbers are in your favor. Another way to look up other applications and jobs is using websites like LinkedIn. And this is really taking the idea of reaching out to your colleagues to a digital level. LinkedIn's a great website to connect with not just employers or look up jobs, but you may also be able to see who you may actually be interviewing with should you actually get the call, because you find that a lot more white collar professionals tend to have a LinkedIn profile, which tends to be individuals like recruiters, human resources managers, or supervisors tend to have this profile. So if I'm looking to apply for a job and I may want to know who's going to interview me, this can be a great place to get a little dish on who that might be. Now, this idea about throwing spaghetti in the wall doesn't really work. So it's a false strategy. It's not about the quantity of applications you apply for. It's really about the quality. Are you applying for the right jobs that meet your expectations? Because there has to be a connection, not just from the employer looking to fill a role. Companies aren't hiring anybody. They're hiring the right person, and you're not taking any job. Even though I hear this a lot, when I speak to individuals that are looking for work, they'll say to me, I'll take anything. And let's be honest, and be honest with yourself. That's not true. You want to make sure that you're qualified for the role and you're interested in the job and you're making a direct connection. So you'll want to do your research when you're applying for jobs. You'll find much better success rates in with this particular strategy. Best job search efforts. The reality is that the best job search efforts are ones that focus on specific jobs with specific employers. If I'm from a particular industry, I'm going to look at my competition. If I used to work at a retailer, I'm going to ask myself, who was my competition? Who did what I used to do here? Because they might be looking to hire people like myself because I have the skills that they're probably looking for. Now, if I'm looking to make a change to a new particular industry or job, that on that website I talked about earlier can be a great place to get what's called labor market information. Find out what jobs are hot, what job titles are expected to grow, what are the requirements for those jobs, and then what are the pay, right? And I'm sure that's something that a lot of us want to know. What's the pay expectation for walking into this particular role? So once again, people don't take anything, even though they say they do, they would be open. Employers don't hire anyone. So make the connection and apply for the jobs you're both a good fit for. Now let's talk about application tracking systems, also called candidate management systems. It's a software designed to help and enterprise recruiters, employers more efficiently. And ATS, as it's abbreviated, can be used to post job openings on a corporate website or job board, screen resumes, and generate interviews requests to potential candidates by email. It's estimated that over 50% of all mid-sized companies and almost all large companies use some type of application tracking system. So to put it simply, an application tracking system is a piece of software. It scans your resume and looks for keywords and buzzwords. And based on those keywords and buzzwords, it determines whether you qualify or don't qualify. What do I mean by that? If I'm a truck driver, in order for me to drive those big trucks, those 18-wheelers, I need to have a special license, a commercial driver's license. And generally speaking, it's probably a commercial driver license class A. So if I'm applying for a truck driver job, that application tracking system is going to scan my resume and it's going to look for CDL, commercial truck driver license, or commercial truck driver license class A. Now, if it scans through my resume and it doesn't find that on my resume, the assumption is simple. It doesn't seem like I qualify. If I don't qualify, guess where my resume is going? I'm getting the thank you for applying, we'll let you know. Now, if I do qualify, that's great. I move on to the next step. But that's just one side of a coin. Once you qualify, you're ranked. Think about ranking like this. I'm sure a lot of you have gone on Google and done the Google search for, say, best pizzerias in Cicero, best pizzerias in NorthRIver Side, best tapas place in Chicago, wherever, and you get results. You may get 1,000 results. Now, I'm not sure who here may look through 1,000 results. Let's be honest. What do? We look through the top 10 results, or I might not even scroll down. I might only look to see what's literally in front of me. Well, an application tracking system is very similar. I am a recruiter. I'm going to go into my database and look at all the individuals that apply for this particular job. They're going to get ranked. How do you get ranked? By the multiple use or the repeating use of keywords or buzzwords. So what do I mean by that? Once again, I'm a truck driver looking for a job. I submit my application. I did put I went to school and obtained my CDL. But so did 30 other students that were in the same class I did. They also put that they went to the same school, they were my classmates, and they also obtained their CDL. So are we going to get ranked the same? Are we all ones? No, what's going to happen is that application tracking system is going to continue looking at the resume, is going to identify other keywords associated with that particular industry that were programmed in there by that employer, and it's going to rank you. So if CDL is that buzzword that's going to determine whether I qualify or don't qualify, using it once puts me on the bottom. Repetitive use. What do I mean by that? You may want to think about, for example, in your summary statement, saying how you obtain your CDL and you're looking to become a driver. In your education, you actually talk about how you went to school and obtain your CDL license. And then in your education, you start talking about the different things you learned in CDL. Describing something is the best way I can tell you to really beef up those keywords and buzzwords. Now, in this example I just gave you, I've used the word CDL 5 times. And simple math tells us 5 is more than 4, 4 is more than 3, 3 is more than 2, and 2 is more than 1. So if we had to get ranked, who's on top, who's on the bottom? If I'm doing my Google search, am I really flipping to page 2, or am I looking past what's in front of me? Think about that. So multiple use of keywords and buzzwords, using the right keywords and buzzwords are really going to help you out. For a little bit more information, let's take a look here. Let's have Katie Miller explain it to us from DICE.
So, what happens to your resume after you click send? We'd like to believe it drops straight into the inbox of the hiring manager where it's immediately opened. What actually happens is far more circuitous. I'm Kat Miller, and this is DICE TV. Before the hiring manager sees your resume, it's probably been entered into a database where it's scanned for words that match the job description. If you haven't heard of it, it's called applicant tracking software. It's something like customer relations management software, but in this case, the customer base is built from job applicants. It's designed to reduce the hiring manager's time in sifting hundreds or even thousands of resumes down to a manageable few. Managers create a search algorithm to produce a first round of results. Then they can run a search against that subset to reduce the number still further. ATS does more than just deliver resumes that match specified criteria. It's used to help recruiters in all phases of the process, from storing applicant files to recording correspondence between them and an applicant. Understanding how ATS works can help your resume stand out. If you're still mailing hard copy resumes, be sure to keep them simple. Use a common font like Arial. Don't use bold or italics because the ATS's OCR software may skip it. So how do you stand out among the hundreds? Avoid putting text in boxes because some AT software ignores them. Though it's tempting to use a box to center your name and address, your perfect resume may get overlooked because the field for your name is left blank. For the same reason, don't slip your name and address in the header. Some packages skip the headers and footers entirely. Avoid odd spacing or making a graphic from your name because that can get skipped as well. Although you want to list all your credentials, such as MCP or PhD, don't put it next to your name. It can mess up the identification. Also, spell out your credentials. CCNA should be Certified Cisco Network Administrator. If PDFs are accepted, be sure that your document is searchable. A non-searchable document may as well be left blank. Finally, no gaming. In other words, don't play the system. Be careful about tricks like taking all the buzzwords from the job description and stuffing them with an invisible font, that runs the risk of getting you blacklisted. Yes, the software will respond to buzzwords, but it can just as easily check resumes that are loaded with them. Once the recruiter sees your resume, she may do a quick check for such tricks, and it's not worth it. I'm Kat Miller, and we now return you to your regular desktop.
So before we get into writing the cover letter, this is where those three phrases really come into play. I'm able to, I have an understanding of, and I can do once trained. So if you're applying for a job that requires a certain level of education or knowledge or experience, then you really want to make sure you're highlighting the points and you're speaking to the particular things. Example, if I'm applying for a job and the requirement is QuickBooks, but I have no experience in QuickBooks, I can leave it out, as most people might have done in the past. But when I go to the application tracking system, it's going to scan, look for QuickBooks. It's going to see I don't have it, and it's going to make an assumption I don't qualify for the job, even though I have other experience that makes me a great candidate. What can I do? I can talk about how I currently have an understanding of QuickBooks because I'm taking some YouTube tutorials right now. So I don't actually have experience, but as long as I was able to speak about it, say QuickBooks on my resume, that application tracking system is going to look it up. That's the way you want to handle those particular scenarios when you need to make sure that you're adding the specific keywords or buzzwords associated to the job you're applying for, and you need to make them match to the job you're applying for. You need to put those in there. And so once again, I'm able to, I have an understanding of, and I can do blank once trained. Thank you. So now to writing a cover letter. When you're writing a cover letter, you want to make sure it's down to one page. It includes 3 different paragraphs. You want to customize the job you're applying for and address the person you're sending it to. So generally speaking, the 3 sections of a cover letter are: what job are you applying for? And this has: how did you hear about the job? Why are you interested in them? And which job you're applying for. Please reference the supportive documents for a much more detailed description of this step and process. Second part of a cover letter is: how do you qualify? The secret here is the qualification section really comes from the job description of the job you're applying for. Take 3 to 5 key qualifiers and write 3 to 5 sentences of how you're a match for those, whether it's education or experience, being able to work nights and weekends, able to lift 50 pounds. If it says in a job description and I'm able to do it, I want to make sure I write about it in my cover letter. They wrote it, so I say it. Finally, the last step of a cover letter, the third part, is: what do you expect to happen next? That can simply be a one-word line sentence statement which says, I look forward to hearing from you. I've attached my resume for your consideration. The end. It can also be something a little bit more detailed, where you're doing the next step on your part, where you're saying something along the lines of, I will be following up on my application in 3 days. I feel I'm a great candidate. Just what do you expect to happen next? Recap. Section 1, what job are you applying for? How did you hear about it? Why them? And a little secret here about the why them is most companies are going to have something called About Us on their website. So if you look up a company and you click their About Us, you're going to hear how they're the best at this, how long they've been in business, how they're known for that. And that's really going to give you a little insight of why do you want to work for these people? Well, this is why. You've been in business for over 50 years. You're a staple in the community. You're one of the leading producers of Acne Incorporated, or Anvils, as it were. And that's why I want to work with you. So the About Us is really your secret cheat sheet for answering that why them part. How do you qualify? Once again, the second section. This is right from the job description. Look at their qualifying requirements and really look at that and see how you're a match and pull 3 to 5 and write 3 to 5 sentences about how you make the match. And the last part is, what do you expect to happen next? I expect to hear from you. Write that down. I've submitted my application. I hope to hear from you. Simple as that, one page, take it from there. Now let's talk about what is a job interview. Well, a job interview is about 30 to 45 minute sales pitch that you're doing to the employer to say, this is why you should hire me. You obviously want to make sure you've done your research. You want to make sure you've prepped. You never want to wing it, as it were. You want to prepare yourself. Determining the fit within an organization is key. Your chance to determine if you want to work for this organization with these people and in this function. Now, landing an interview. Phone interview. You want to treat your phone interview just like a regular interview or face-to-face. You want to dress up. You want to smile. You want to be prepared. Once again, don't wing it. And you want to get to the point, especially because you're on the phone. So let's look at a little bit of video tutorial here. I can really give us some more for us to be able to hear.
The step that separates you from walking into the company's offices wearing a sharp suit is the phone interview. You have to make a good enough impression so that the company would like to see you in person. Phone interviews allow employers to screen potential employees without committing valuable resources in order to organize an on-site interview. It takes a few weeks before you receive a response for one of the applications that you submitted. Now that you have gone through this course, you will probably be advanced to the next stage of selection: phone interviews. Here is an example of an email I received several years ago. I am very pleased to advise you that you have done well, and we would like to invite you to the next stage of the selection process: telephone interview with the HR representative. Now, this is important. They are telling me that I will talk to a person from HR. In an HR interview, I would not expect to be asked any technical questions. It would be mostly made of motivational and competency questions. And this is confirmed by the next sentence. The purpose of the telephone interview is to get a better understanding of your motivation and to learn more about your professional experience and skills. It is very important to fully read the email that you receive. It contains valuable information that can give you great insight regarding the future interview. Sometimes you will receive a phone call that will schedule the interview. If that happens, make sure that you ask what the interview is going to be about, whether you have to prepare for any technical questions, etc. And make no mistake about it, a phone interview is an interview. You need to prepare for it. It's important to spend enough time researching the company and the position you are applying for. However, before we get on to that, I would like to advise you on a few important matters concerning your phone interview. Use a good phone. It is very important to fully understand the other person and that he or she can hear you as well. Make sure that this is the case with the phone you use. If you have any doubts about it, ask a friend for his phone or take the call from your domestic phone. Make sure that you have battery. I once interviewed with a very important investment bank and my battery fell. And although we continued the conversation 15 minutes later, you can imagine the kind of impression that this whole scene produced. Control your environment. It is absolutely critical that you receive the call in a silent room that allows you to concentrate on the interview. Otherwise, you risk being distracted and losing your focus. Stay calm. This is the tough part, especially when you want the job you are interviewing for. Preparation and practice are the best cure. Write down several questions that you are likely to come across during the interview and practice providing the answers to these questions. Answering familiar questions will be less stressful. Another thing that has worked really well for me is taking a few deep breaths before answering and trying to smile during the interview. There are two reasons for that. First, the phone interview is an experience, and I want to enjoy it, regardless of the fact that it's stressful. And second, I believe that a smiling person sounds better on the other end of the phone, which has a great impact on the overall impression that the interviewer will have. In the next video, we'll cover some additional strategies that will allow you to ace your phone interviews. See you there.
So it's important to make sure you know yourself. Now is not the time to be humble. You can't know everything about a company before you interview, but you do have to be able to articulate your strengths. So do your research, know your strengths, and be specific. I can tell you that everyone I talk to is a hard worker. Everyone I talk to is a team player. Everyone can show up on time. So be specific. If all you have to say about yourself is you're a hard worker, team player, you can show up time, then you're no more different than anyone else. So you need to make sure you're making the connection and give details. Practice makes perfect. Listen carefully and put up your radar. Interviews are won and lost in a matter of minutes based on whether a job candidate is listening and answering the interview's questions. Focus on the interview's questions first. Let's take a look at this video from USC Dorn Life and see what they have to say about it.
If you're preparing to enter the workforce, graduate school, or an internship, it's important to distinguish yourself from the competition, not only with your skills, but also with your style.
It's worth investing in a couple of power outfits that will help you look great and feel confident. When choosing an outfit, stay away from bold colors and patterns. Don't get too crazy with a tie or patterned stockings. As a general rule, a gray or navy blue suit is your best bet. We recommend a white or light blue dress shirt with a complementary tie. Having your suit tailored to ensure a good fit is a must. Pair a suit with dark shoes and dark socks as well as a matching belt. Extra points for polishing your shoes. If you're asking yourself whether your look is appropriate, it probably isn't. A blouse with dark pants or a skirt just above the knee is always a good option. Consider adding a jacket or a cardigan to complete the look. Every company is different, and the dress code expectations for a job in business or finance will likely differ a bit from a job in the arts or at a tech startup. For those interviews, a conservative suit will probably not be your best option. Instead, opt for dark wash jeans, no holes, and a nice shirt or blouse, or a business-appropriate dress or jacket. This can be a bit of a gray area, so you'll need to research the company and use your best judgment. We recommend not wearing any cologne or perfume, and limit your number of accessories. A pocket square, conservative watch, and one ring are acceptable. You can dress up your look with a necklace or tasteful piece of jewelry. One important accessory to bring is a leather portfolio containing a pen, calendar, and copies of your resume. Make sure your hair is neatly groomed and away from your face, and your outfit is free of wrinkles and pet hair. Regardless of the current shoe trends, your shoes should be professional and understated. Remember, you can never go wrong overdressing for an interview.
Always err on the side of looking professional. Good luck.
Let's take what we've learned so far and really incorporate it to at ease and mock interviews. Let's continue the conversation with 365 careers.
There are several things that fall into this category. Basically, you want to make sure that all external signs about your usual behavior speak in your favor. Be on time. Make no mistake about it, being late for a job interview blows any chance of getting the job. Punctuality is a great virtue in the working world. So, when interview day approaches, you need to make sure of two things: knowing where the company's office is located, leaving plenty of time to get there. Dress sharp. Hawaiian shirts and short trousers are cool when you're at the seaside. Everybody would expect you to wear professional clothes. A suit with a white or light blue shirt, plus a tie for men, and a suit or a professional dress for women. The thing is that business and finance professionals are often judged based on how they look. Clothing has an effect on both the wearer and the observer. Studies show that people are more likely to give money or information to someone if that person is well dressed. So yes, dressing as a finance professional is important, especially if you want to become one. Turn off your cell phone. It goes without saying that you should turn off your phone during the interview. Imagine how awkward it would be if the annoying Facebook message sound continually interrupted one of your answers during the interview. Body language is an important part of the overall impression that you will make during the interview. Once the interviewer greets you, it is game time. Offer a palm-to-palm handshake that is not too strong and not too relaxed. A bad handshake leaves an impression. If you are uncertain about yours, ask some of your friends for an extra opinion. Then, once you are offered a seat, find an appropriate place to set down your belongings. Do not put your bag, briefcase, or anything on top of the table, except for a pen and a notebook maybe. Try to sit up, straight. Avoid touching your face and crossing your arms. Body language gives a hint of your personality, how energetic you are, how you respond to stress, etc. The best way to avoid body language mistakes is by being prepared. Preparation builds confidence, which transmits into a better performance. The hiring manager aims to separate good from bad candidates. Valid interview etiquette is not what will win the job for you, but can certainly be the negative differentiator that costs the job for you. But don't worry. Follow the interview etiquette rules that we mentioned here, and you will be fine.
Articulate how you can contribute. Most businesses are doing more with fewer resources these days. Prepare examples of past contributions to give an employer and ideas of how you might contribute to their organization. Acknowledge your weaknesses. Very common interview question revolves around, what are your weaknesses? Tell them what you're doing to improve it. It's okay to be flawed, but it's not okay to stay flawed, if that makes sense. Attention, get ready for your mock interview. You can pause this portion of the video and answer the questions, or watch this portion of the video to the end. But remember, practice makes perfect. So let's get going.
When preparing for a job interview, practicing can boost your confidence and your performance. In this video, staff here at Career One will ask you questions that you might be asked in an interview. Pause the video after each question to prepare your response, or watch the video through to the very end, so hopefully, on the day, there are no nasty surprises. So let's start with your first question. Please tell me about yourself.
What attracted you to this role?
What do you already know about our organisation?
What do you like about our product? And what would you change?
Judging by your resume, I can see that you've moved around a lot and you've tried a variety of different roles. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
What new skills would you like to develop? Okay, tell me, why did you leave your last job?
I can see by your resume that you're overqualified for this role. Why would you want this opportunity?
So, how much are you earning in your current position? What do you think you're worth?
Tell me about a time when you had to solve an urgent issue. What action did you take and what were the outcomes?
Describe the management style that brings out the best in you.
What are your strengths and weaknesses? Give me 3 strengths and 1 weakness.
What are some key achievements in your career?
What was the last idea that you put forward? Was it adopted and what was the result?
Do you prefer working with others or on your own? Why?
Tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult customer or a client. What did you do and how was their problem resolved?
So what would your last employer say about you?
How do you perform under pressure?
Give me an example of a time when you didn't agree with a colleague. What did you do about it?
Why should I hire you?
When would you be available to start?
So, do you have any questions?
So once again, take this opportunity during this recording to rewind, view that part of the recording, and answer those questions. Practice will make perfect. And don't be afraid to ask questions in your interview. Questions you should always ask are clarification questions. When they say some travel is involved, how much travel? You may want to know that. If they say they're looking to move quickly, well, how quickly are you looking to move? When they throw an acronym your way, it's okay to ask, what do you mean by WIOA, W-I-O-A? Now, you obviously want to make sure you do your research and prepare, which will help answer a lot of questions ahead of time. But for those questions you still have while you're interviewing, that's the greatest place to be to get them answered. So ask.
In this video, I'm sharing 5 questions that you can ask during your next job interview. And if you stay with me until the end, I have something special just for you. If we've never met before, I'm Heather Austin from ProfessorAustin.com and the Career Club on Facebook. And on this channel, I share simple solutions to help you launch a career you love. So if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Before we tackle my top 5 questions to ask during your next job interview, there's a few things to keep in mind. The first thing is be prepared. One of the best things you can do before your next job interview is prepare a set of questions to ask the interviewer. Asking questions during the interview will show your interest in the position and it will help you decide if you even want to work there. The second thing to do is revise the questions I'm about to share with you as needed. You can tailor them for your own needs for the position and for the company. The last thing before we jump into the questions is ask these questions where appropriate. You don't always have to ask them at the end of the interview. If you find a space in the interview, feel free to ask the questions then. This turns the interview into a two-sided conversation and makes it run more like a casual business meeting than a formal, stuffy interview. So let's jump into question number 1. Can you tell me more about the team I will be working on and how the company fosters a healthy team environment? The great thing about this question is that it gives you a greater insight into whom you will be working closely with. You'll learn more about the team environment and how conflicts are addressed. You'll also learn more about how you would fit into the company culture. You may even get a better understanding of how employees are recognized for their accomplishments. Question number 2. What have prior employees done to succeed in this position? This question is great because it shows that you have your eye on success. It demonstrates that you want to go above and beyond the normal call of duty and make a difference in your new position. The other great thing about this question is that it gives you more history about the position and what's going to be expected of you. Question number 3. What are some things you like about working with this company? By asking this question, you're going to learn more about the company culture and the interviewer. You'll glean more information about the company's core values. Most likely, the person interviewing you is upper management. So this question will give you a greater idea
into the management style of the company and what their priorities are. Listen carefully when you ask this question because you'll learn a lot from it. Question number 4, tell your interviewer in your own words how you interpret the position and if you missed anything. I like to call this the positive recap. It reiterates your interest in the position and shows that you understand what the position entails. It also shows that you are clear about company culture, and it decreases the chance of any big surprises when you start your new job. And then finally, question number 5, what are the next steps in the process, and do you need anything else from me? The nice thing about this question is that it shows the interviewer that you are eager and ready to move on to the next step in the process. This also gives the interviewer a chance to ask for extra items like letters of recommendation. Maybe they want to see your transcripts. Maybe they want to see a list of references. Here's a bonus tip. It's not appropriate to ask about salary, benefits, or even vacation time. You want to reserve these questions to your second or maybe even third interviews. Thanks guys for staying with me until the end. I promised you a special bonus, and here it is. The ultimate guide to staying positive.
Thank you so much for that. Follow up after the interview. Follow up is so important. You want to make sure you thank them for their time. Don't forget to ask for a business card. This will give you all the information you may need, such as the proper spelling of their name, email or phone number to follow up. And when you follow up, you want to make sure you send them something along the lines of a follow-up email or a thank you letter. This can also be a great way to check to see where you are. And one recommendation I make for you, when you do follow up, make sure you reiterate how you're a good fit for that role. Don't just say, thank you for taking the time to see me. Have you hired someone? Say, I really enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you again for taking that time. I feel that after we've talked, I meet the criteria based on the following X, Y, and Z. I'm ready to start when ready. Thank you. Something along those lines. I hope you found this tutorial and training useful. Please feel free and reach out to one of our SERCO staff with any additional questions or support you might have. And once again, don't forget to look at our supported materials that were provided earlier through the tiny URL /SERCO docs. And finally, don't forget to like us on Facebook at SERCO Workforce. That's SERCO Workforce. Thank you.